Who destroyed their own career within seconds by being an idiot?
A sales guy on my team was out of town on a business trip and decided to take his girlfriend. They got drunk in a bar and he got into a fight with her. He went to jail and the company truck was towed and impounded. While he was in jail, she got into his phone and found out he had been sleeping with other girls on the road. She found some pretty explicit pictures. She then posted them on our company Facebook page and on his customers' social pages. After that, she completely trashed his house.
That lady who got a job at NASA and tweeted at the National Space Council overseer to kiss her ass.
It was actually my dick and balls. Haha.
From what I remember, the National Space Council overseer didn't want her to lose the opportunity to work at NASA, but it was out of his hands when it went viral. One of the girls in the customer support team at a previous company got absolutely blotto at the Christmas party and did a full strip show on a tabletop in front of all staff and their partners. She got right down to the skin before anyone could yank her down. We came to work the following Monday and her desk was just gone. Not just personal items packed up in a box, but the entire desk had been dismantled and taken out of the customer service area. Apparently, the customer service manager was so furious about the situation that he wanted to send a message that she wasn't just fired, but was to be totally erased from company existence. Salted the carpet where the desk was. One of the managers I worked with was visiting a company site in another country. He went to a strip club and then onto a private room for a lap dance, and so on. Because he was traveling on work business, he of course claimed these costs on a company expense claim. We never saw him again. I used to work for Chase in their fraud department. I had at least one of these a week. Strip clubs are used to this. They almost all get your identification and signature on file. You can't claim fraud when I have got your government identification right here, dude. Former stripper here. They do this when you start charging a lot to a card because men will get next day regret and try to do a chargeback. The general rule of thumb is to get them to simply take cash out of the automated teller machine. If they insist on using a card, you have to get their identification. This is the kind of thing your boss insists on when you strip. For those who, like me, had no idea what anyone in this subthread is referencing, here's the incident from Wikipedia. On August 19, 2020, while providing commentary on Fox Sports Ohio for the first game of an away doubleheader between the Cincinnati Reds and the Kansas City Royals, Tom Brenneman was caught on a hot microphone calling a city, later revealed to be San Francisco, one of the capitals of the world. The Reds pulled him off the air during the second game, with studio host Jim Day taking over play-by-play after the top of the fifth inning. Before leaving the booth, Brenneman apologized for his earlier anti-gay slur, saying that he was deeply ashamed if he hurt anyone out there. He also hinted that his broadcasting future was in doubt, saying, "I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again." Many people noted the awkwardness of the apology. As Brenneman continued, he suddenly paused to call a home run by Nick Castellanos. "I'm so very, very sorry. I pride myself and think of myself as a man of faith. As there's a drive into deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run, and so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game." He went on to state that he apologized for the people who signed my paycheck and asserted, "That is not who I am and never has been. And I'd like to think that maybe I could have some people that could back that up." I was a second-year professor in physics when I flunked the starting center from the university basketball team. Even after a meeting with the athletic director, the dean, my department head, and the university president, I decided to stick to my guns. They laid me off 4 months later, and I had to become a computer programmer. Note, he was taking Intro to Astronomy. Speaking as a professor, I am imagining this benefited your finances and joy in life in the end. No? It was an adjustment, but yeah, I rolled with the punches. I do like money. The gal who did not like the company-issued laptop that Information Technology gave her decided to use her company purchasing card to buy a pretty laptop from Best Buy. She brought it to us, and we looked at her like a third arm was growing out of her forehead. It was over $1,000, which is a capital expense, and it was not pre-approved. So, she was immediately fired. Gerald Radner owned a ton of low-cost jewelry shops in the United Kingdom and over 1,000 in the United States. Radner made a speech addressing a conference of the Institute of Directors at the Royal Albert Hall on April 23, 1991. During the speech, he commented, "We also do cut glass sherry decanters complete with 6 glasses on a silver-plated tray that your butler can serve you drinks on, all for £4.95. People say, how can you sell this for such a low price? I say, because it's total crap. He compounded this by going on to remark that one of the sets of earrings was cheaper than a prawn sandwich from Marks & Spencer's, but I have to say, the sandwich will probably last longer than the earrings. The company lost 500 million pounds in value within days as shares plummeted, and he left the company the following year. This company is now rebranded as Signet Jewelers, also known as Jared, Kay, and Zales. And I can tell you, as a former jeweler there, the quality has not improved.
A 34-ish-year-old coworker of mine was extremely jealous and upright mean about someone so young having a manager position over her. I was in my teens, but got the role based on my dependability. We had a Bitcoin machine at the store. One day, no one else is at the store because the boss had dipped for some reason. A phone scammer calls. This coworker answers, fully steals all the money out of both cash registers, and deposits it into the Bitcoin account. The boss came back right as she was trying to break into the safe to put that money in there too. I am friends with her on Facebook, and she has not managed to get a job since. She posts her GoFundMe link hourly and actually attacks people for not donating. The police officer who shit himself by accident in front of a classroom full of kids while demonstrating what to do if they find a gun. It was an early viral video, so it made it incredibly hard for him to find another job where he was not instantly recognized as that cop who shit himself in front of those kids. I work as a firefighter paramedic. A couple of emergency medical technicians I worked with went to paramedic school and got fired and had their licenses revoked by the state for forging signatures on their paperwork. They had to get signatures verifying the hours they worked from the hospital staff where they did clinical practice. And a few of them forgot to get some signatures. They got caught because an instructor found a sheet of paper one of them accidentally turned in with some other papers where they had been practicing said signatures. What is super dumb is that they actually did the hours, they just forgot the signatures. All it would have taken was a call to the hospital clinical coordinator and the papers could have been signed properly. But they decided to forge it and they lost their jobs over it. They will also never work anywhere as firefighters, emergency medical technicians, or paramedics because it is basically impossible to get certified again if any state revokes your cards.
I worked with a guy who was a contractor for the federal government for about 15 years before finally getting hired on as a permanent federal employee. It was either a week before or after being officially hired that he was sent to another state for training. He met a woman in the airport and invited her back to his hotel room. He ended up missing the first 2 days of class, which prompted the instructor to call his boss. Well, the boss called him directly and asked how class was going, and he made it sound like he was actively attending class. He was not only fired, but he also had to explain to his wife exactly why.
I worked as a security supervisor long ago. We were unarmed guards and you had to sign several forms stating that you carried absolutely no weapons, not even pocket knives. The contract was extremely strict on that. One of our guards was digging around in his backpack and his loaded pistol tumbled out and slid across the floor right in front of several clients. He had the pistol and several loaded magazines on him, and he admitted to the police under Miranda rights that he had carried it like that for a long time. Not only did he get fired, but the client pressed charges against him, and since it was a lawful gun-free zone, he was charged by the local government as well. He was one of those security guards who was aspiring to be a police officer, and he pissed his entire career path away in just a few seconds.
A guy my mom worked with called in sick and then was spotted in the background of a picture on the front page of the newspaper at a local wine festival. Someone ended up posting the newspaper clipping on the break room bulletin board, but they had to take it down later because of concerns about bullying. My roommate also once called in sick to the grocery store he worked at and then literally went to that exact same store later that day to buy alcohol.